So now if you have all your tool information in there, we're ready to measure our part, where it is on the X and Y, and you can also do the Z. So the first thing you have to do is call up your tool probe. The tool probes, or the measuring probe, should always be in pocket number 20. So we're going to go MDI, we'll just do T20, and that calls that up. Okay? So now, very carefully, measure your part, or maneuver your probe to the edge of your part. Like I said, very carefully, because it will break. And you want to bring it down just so the center of that probe hits that. So we should be pretty good. You need to be within 0.4 of an inch, so a little bit less than a half inch in there. If you're not close enough, it'll air out and it'll give you a parameter default, and you'll just have to reset it and do it over. So we got our probe where it needs to be to do the x-axis. So we're going to do that same thing, edit, 1, 2, 3. And like I said, as long as you don't turn the machine off, you don't have to go through that F2 and find your parameter programs. This part will always come up. So these are all measuring programs that you can use for your probe. Here, once again, it gives you a little bit of a description, and it tells you what it's doing. That's a boss, meaning a round part, it'd be a male part sticking up. If you want to do a pocket in the X direction, pocket in the Y. A web is the outside if you want to find the center of the part. But if you get into a part, you say, well, my options aren't really there, you can just hit cancel, and it comes back to your blank screen. We're going to look for 1 through 9. So now we're going to look for in here. That's the probe of bore, if you had the center of a hole like we did previously with an indicator. Okay, here's a probe X plus direction. That means the probe is going to travel in the X plus direction. We want the probe to actually travel in the X negative direction. So here's one that says probe X minus surface. It means the probe's going to go in the X minus surface. So that's the one we want. We're going to hit right enter. Okay? It's asking you for a work offset number. Well, in this case, my program, I used 56, so I'm going to use 56. So then after you hit right enter, you get the screen again, the screen with your 4 options, go to MDI, hit right enter. Okay, the MDI page comes up with a program in it. We're going to close our doors. We're going to hit cycle start. Probe will hit the part actually 3 times. After it does that, it actually put our value into G56. Okay? So now, we're going to maneuver around to the top of the part and do it for the Y. And here you got to make sure that you don't hit your hard jaw and break the probe. Okay, so that's right above our hard jaw. We can close the doors right away. Hit edit, program conversation 3 times, spindle. We're looking for our Y, and we want to make sure the Y goes Y negative. So here's a Y minus surface. We're going to hit right enter. We're working with offset number 56. Screen comes up, MDI, and we're going to hit cycle start. And that's your Y surface, and your offset, you have your X and your Y set there. Okay, so after you do your X and Y, the next thing you want to do is your Z surface. Now, just like you did with the top of the table to the top of your part, you have to give the relationship to where the top of that part is to your tool probe. So basically all you do is get your tool above your part, and without breaking it, you want to be within 400 thousandths of the top of your part. So once you're there, So we're going to hit our edit, program conversation 3 times. Okay? I think it's in spindle probe 1 through 9, so we're going to hit that, and we're looking for a probe or Z surface. Okay? That's what we want to do. We're probing our Z surface. We're going to hit right enter. What's our work offset? 56. So we're going to hit right enter. We want to do this in MDI, right enter. And once we have that, the doors are closed, you can hit cycle start. So there, under our G56, it input a negative 15.037. Okay? So if our top of our part was a finished surface and you weren't machining off the top of your part, you'd be fine. You'd be done here with the Z surface. But let's say you have a rough stock there and you want to machine down some of that material, and in your program, you should have, if you're using a face mill, you should be programming at Z0. So what I want to do is I want to change that here. So if I want to bring that down 20 thousandths, just negative 0.02, and now your Z surface is 20 thousandths below your rough stock. Remember, you want to do that in your work offset number so all your other tools follow along. Now, one little word of caution here. If you measured your tools off the top of the table, you cannot use a probe to measure the top of your part. You have to use a tool or some other measuring device to find out where the relationship to the top of the part to the top of the table. You can use it for your X and Y, but you have to be consistent in how you measure your tools. If you're using the probe, you have to use the probe for the top of your part. So that would cover majority of your X and Y and your Z. I'll go through one of the other instances where if you want to measure the center of the part as far as the X and the Y. So for the X, what I want to do is I want to put the probe approximately in the middle of that part. And you can do this with a scale. It looks like my rough stock is about 5 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to move it approximately right about there. Like I said, it just has to be close to the center. Okay, so once I have that done, go edit, program conversation 3 times. I believe the options in here, if you pick 1 through 9, you look, oh, that's not the right one. We'll hit cancel, it takes us out. And let's look in spindle probe 10 through 18. Okay? Probe an X web, meaning outside of a part. Okay? If you had the inside of a part, it'd be a pocket, but we're doing the outside. We're going to hit right enter. It's asking you to work offset. We're working with 56. Okay? So now it's asking you X width. What is the actual width of your part? And this is your rough stock, not your finished stock. We measured it roughly 5 3/4. Z depth. How far, when that probe moves over to the side, how far do you want that to drop down? Now you do have to be a little careful. You're working with a Y. You want to make sure you watch out for your jaws. So if you have to use a ruler to get a little bit close, you can. In this case, we don't have any of the jaws on the side, so we're just going to say negative 0.5. If you put a positive 0.5, it's going to try to measure the part above it. Okay? So after you hit right enter, you get those 4 options. We're going to use MDI there. And then we get our program up, and it's just a matter of hitting cycle start. It'll go through and measure one side, goes over, measures the other side. There. And then that input your X center of that part automatically for you, and it did move to the center of the part also. If for some reason you'd punch in a bad value, you really can't hurt nothing. The machine knows where that part should be, and if you put in, like if our width is 5.75, maybe you put 4.75, that machine, when it comes down and it hits the top of the part, it goes at a speed slow enough where it defaults out, and it'll just give you a program error, some type of an error where it hit a part basically where it knew it shouldn't have. So you're not going to break the part or the probe as long as you're inside the MDI program. You can break it if you're hand wheeling it, you go in the wrong direction, you come down too hard. So do be careful when you're hand moving it around. So that's basically a quick run through on the probes. Like I said, there's a number of different options we didn't cover. Feel free to experiment a little bit and look around. I'm definitely around if you have questions. But like I said, if you just kind of watch what you're doing, you really can't hurt it too much unless, like I said, doing it by hand, you can't hurt it. But within the programs, you can pretty much can work it through and just answer the questions that it's prompting you through.